There you are.
Now we're cooking.
Hey. Oh, shit. You know what I was going to do, Laban? I forgot to bring my sports coat. I was going to bring my sport coat and not wear a shirt underneath it, just like what you do. I even told Janan that. I'm like, I got to remember to get my sports coat, and then I'm going to take my shirt off. So
I'm going to do some lives later this month, so we'll get you on and you can do it then.
All right. That sounds good. That sounds really good. So we can just go ahead and just kind of shoot the shit. Brad is working on getting stuff. So for some reason, when we do these live on Zoom, our system has a hell of a time connecting with the Facebook and the YouTube. But Brad's getting it all worked on. So we're just going to sit here and chat until he starts. Or we're live on YouTube. Oh, hey guys, we're live. Yeah, we're rocking and rolling. So, anyways. Laban, oh my gosh, brother, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to spend it with us on the other side of Addiction Live. And this guy that I got sitting next to me, this is Dr. Mike Smith.
Buenas tardes, or buenas noches, Mr. Dr. Mike Smith.
Nice to meet you, Laban. I've heard all kinds of things about you. A lot of them have been good, even.
Yeah, a lot of them, huh? Yeah.
So I've been looking forward to getting better acquainted with you.
Well, it's lovely to meet you, sir. And I'm sure any friend of Al Richards is a friend of mine. So I'm looking forward to it this evening. And thank you very much for having me on yet again. Might be appearance number 4.
Yeah, it is appearance number 4. Yes, at least, because you and your lovely wife, Anna, came on for our 100th episode. And then you came on, gosh, sometime early this year. You was on the show, and
it's irrelevant. It's a new day.
Else? Yeah,
it's a new day.
And I'm going to see. Hey, Mason, real quick, is there a chance we can get Mel a headphone just in case she wants to listen? So she's just not sitting. Oh yeah, she's even sporting my hat. I love it. So one of my really good friends come into the studio today to check out the show. So very grateful to have her here with us today.
Is it Mallory Rouge?
No, it is not Mallory. This is Melanie Ayres. Yeah.
I'm sure you're just as lovely, Melanie.
She is. Is there, you can see us on camera, right?
I can see you two jokers.
Okay. Come over here and say hi to Laban. Yeah. So you can't see him right now, but can you see her?
Melanie, yeah, that's a familiar looking face.
Yeah. There she is. Now she can
Melanie,
hear you.
that's a familiar looking face. Were you a guest? Have you been a guest on the show before?
I have not been a guest.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, thank goodness I have not had the opportunity to be a guest, but maybe someday.
She's always so busy.
Right?
You got to make time for greatness, Melanie. You got to make time. Al's doing God's work here.
Yes, he is, definitely.
So is Dr. Mike.
Right.
Yes. Thank you, Mel. So, guys, I guess we can just go ahead and get rocking, right, Brad?
Yeah.
Might as well.
You're going.
All right. So, Laban, again, my brother, thank you so very much for your time. You don't ever say no, it seems like. Anytime I reach out to you and say, hey, I got this opportunity for you to come on the show, you and Anna both are always there with open arms just to say, yeah, what do you need? So,
I don't say no to you, Al. I say no to lots of other things just to set the record straight, because that's a very important boundary setting exercise. Just in case people thought they're getting a little carried away, saying no is a very powerful tool. But yes, Al, I got to say, dude, I got a huge amount of respect for you, and I've just enjoyed getting to know you over the last year and just watching you crush it. And anything I can do to support you in this journey, you got my support.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I think the world of you too, brother. That's for sure. Very, very blessed that we had an opportunity to meet and just to build this friendship. And it has meant the world to me. So it really has.
Do you mind me asking how that came about? How did you two meet?
Tinder.
Tinder.
Yeah, we met through Tinder.
He was making a fire and I was cutting up little logs of wood.
I see.
And, that's where we met. Yeah.
Yeah. we had a beautiful lady on our show that was a guest. And when we got off the show, we were chatting a little bit and she goes, I got this guy that you really need to meet and I'll do this introduction. And she says that I'm sure with her just kind of meeting me as well, that you two are going to hit it off. And she did. She made an introduction to Laban and I, and we did like a Zoom call one night, just chatting. And I mean, it was like I've known this man forever, to be honest with you.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does Brad know that the camera's gone on?
Yeah, again, we're going to get this thing down. This is only our second live show, especially through a Zoom. So we're going to
be the last.
So anyone who's out there, man, we're just bear with us. We're doing our best. And I think our next couple of shows are going to be live. So
in 10 years, when this is syndicated globally, this is going to be hilarious.
Yeah.
Outtakes. Do you remember 10 years ago when Brad was in charge?
Yeah. I mean, all our shows are going to be live on Wednesday, but a lot of them are going to be in studio. So again, hey, what we want to do is when I first reached out to Laban and said, hey, buddy, would you like to step in and be a guest on the show? And again, this Wednesday live show is more about information. It's not really based off of addiction, even though addiction does come into it a little bit. That's what the Thursday podcasts are for. And with Laban being the world's best courage coach, and to me, I think there's a lot of different forms of courage.
Sure.
And I thought, my gosh, that would be an incredible topic to talk about. And what made me come up with this, Laban, is your lovely wife just did an interview with a beautiful young lady by the name of London. And I watched that. And I tell you what, that little gal, man, is she's inspiring. And I don't want to share a lot about it because I've actually been in contact with her mom, and we're going to do a Zoom chat tomorrow. And London wants to come on the show, and we're going to do a live show with her.
Fantastic.
But for her to be 13 years old and to come out and share something that a lot of young girls would hold inside and not talk about and not share because of the shame, probably blaming themselves, which happens a lot. And we've had a lot of guests on our show who have battled with addiction. And a lot of their battle with addiction was caused because of what this beautiful young girl went through. And to me, I thought that was huge as far as courage goes. And again, with you being the world's best courage coach, I thought, man, what a kick butt topic for a Wednesday night show.
Yeah.
Wow. So, Laban, what the heck got you to come up with being the world's best courage coach?
It's a very interesting, dynamic, fascinating, and sordid story, and one of my favorites to tell. And if I have the opportunity, I'd love to fill in the blanks with regards to London as well.
Okay.
This young 13-year-old that you've been inspired by. And I've just been inspired by as well. I just saw the testimonial that she gave out. I hadn't actually seen it yet. And truly, truly humbling, inspiring young woman, man. The world's best courage coach might invoke a few feelings when you hear it. And for those listening or watching, put your hand up in your head or in real life if you felt a pang of like, how dare you? You egotistical git, or that's a bold statement for someone who's a bit more polite, and you'd be well within your rights to think that. But let me explain the origins of the world's best courage coach, and when I tell the story, I want you to listen to it like it's you, like you are me in the story, and I'll explain why in the end. In September of 2021 last year, we were in turmoil. We were in Australia, in Melbourne, in what was then the most lockdown city in the world. And for the entire duration of the lockdown, bar a few months, we were housebound for 23 hours a day. We were allowed out for 1 hour a day. And my wife, who had just settled her divorce, was in Russia to testify against her perpetrator. She'd been subpoenaed by the Russian police. Getting out of the country, you've heard some of the story, was an absolute nightmare. The Australian government requested written requests, which had to be accepted or denied. They denied the first request, even though they knew she was going back to testify against her perpetrator. And here I was stuck in Melbourne because we weren't married at that time, and I wouldn't have been able to get a visa to get in the country. It takes about a month. And I was broke. I'd started this entrepreneurial journey when COVID started, and because of my previous recruitment business, my entrepreneurial journey in that space, I wasn't eligible for any of the payouts. So how we got through the lockdown is miraculous in itself. But I'd been introduced to a guy by the name of Steve Hardison. And Steve Hardison, for those who don't know, is somewhat of an enigma. He's a guy who lives in Mesa, Arizona, and he's in his 60s. He's known as the ultimate coach.
And from Utah.
And from Utah, right? Born and bred Utah, good Mormon lad. Did his mission in London. Family man. And up until a year and a bit ago did not exist anywhere apart from one video on YouTube, which was a presentation from about 12 years ago. And I'd been told about this guy from some other coaches in this community that I must watch this video. And the video is 2 hours and 10 minutes long of, for me, DNA alteringly good impact. And if you could put the note, the link for the show in there, Brad, if you can do that live or put it in afterwards. And I would encourage you to watch this video. And I watched this video and I was so moved by this whole experience. And it's him talking and sharing this story about a football player. It's nothing to do with sport. Men and women can watch it equally. It's great. And I was so moved by this experience that I wanted to speak to this Steve Hardison guy. Now, this Steve Hardison, he's $200,000 for 50 hours coaching. All right. He is Oprah Winfrey's coach, the CEO of billion-dollar businesses, amazing. Tony Robbins' ex-wife. Like, this guy deals with the creme de la creme, and it's all coming to his home. He doesn't do video. He doesn't do interviews. He doesn't do podcasts. He didn't have a book. And so the only footage that existed was this one particular speech he did from 12 years ago, right? And I watched this video and I was so moved by it. I was like, I need to meet that man to see if he is who I think he is in real life. And I'm incredibly resourceful, which is where this courage comes from, right? I would reach out to the CEOs of very big organizations to cold call them and to try to drum up business and recruitment. And that sort of spilled forth into this lifestyle. And I got Steve's phone number and I rang it, and I was in Australia still. He picks up the phone. Hey, this is Steve Hardison. I said, yes, it is. I said, Steve Hardison, it's Laban Ditchburn from Melbourne, Australia here. He goes, Laban, so great to hear from you. I've been waiting for this call all my life. And I was like, who is this guy? I don't know if you've ever rung someone and they picked up the phone and answered it in a really unusual but powerful way. Like, it was the best way to answer a phone call I've ever heard in my life. This guy's never met me, never heard boo, right? I said, Steve, I just watched this video of you talking with Deuce Latouille, the footballer in there. And I said, I was so moved by it. I wanted to ask you one very specific question, because I knew that this guy had everything on the surface of it. I knew he was very successful financially. He had a wonderful, loving relationship, lots of kids, and was living his dream. And there wasn't a lot that I could offer him at all. But I said to him, Steve, what do you need help with? He said, wow, Laban. He said, I really want to thank you for asking me that question. He said, you know what? I'm 66. I do 8 miles a day. I'm 8% body fat. I've got everything a man could ever want, but I really want to acknowledge you for asking me that question. I said, oh, no worries, Steve. I said, are you still not doing interviews and podcasts and that stuff? He goes, yeah, that's right. I said, no worries. I said, the reason I ask is I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, and I got this amazing podcast series called Become Your Own Superhero, and I'm well on my way to being known as the world's most positively influential speaker. But you know what? I was talking to a guy the other day that I respect and admire, and he said to me, Laban, there's too much ego associated with that. Steve, as quick as a flash, devout Mormon man, says, Laban, you tell that person to fuck off. Do you know who I am? I said, who are you, Steve? He goes, I'm the best coach in the world. Now, the way that he said it versus the way that I said it, I don't know that I'll ever be able to replicate, but it was zero ego about it. And I walked away from that 13-minute conversation with my life completely transformed. I got on the phone and I called a friend of mine, Chris Doris, who features in this video, who was coached by Steve Hardison.
Yes.
Chris is
Matter of fact, he's in his book, The Ultimate Coach. Chris is
he's all through the book
a couple times. Yeah.
He's known as the mental toughness coach. He's worked with PGA golfers, pro footballers. This guy's elite. He's about $3,000 an hour if you can get him anyway. So I said, hey, Chris, just got off the phone to Steve Hardison. He's like, what? I go, yeah, I just called Steve Hardison. He goes, what do you mean? You just rung him up? I go, yeah, we were just on the phone for 30 minutes. He goes, do you have any idea the gift of courage you had to bring to the world? And in that moment, the world's best courage coach was created, not from a place of ego, but a place of declaration. This was the new Laban. Because I said to Chris, I need to make some money. He said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this world's best courage coach declaration and we're going to mold it into a pre-prepared script that you're going to ring up the CEOs of these businesses. And I rang a few companies in the States. I rang the CEO of Zoom. Shout out to Eric Yang. We didn't really get anywhere. He was in his car. The signal was a bit crappy. And I called someone from Cisco and someone else from Walmart. No one picked up. And it was getting late in the US. And I called a phone number for a company in Australia called Hodges Real Estate. Now, you probably never heard of Hodges Real Estate, but they are known as the oldest real estate company in Australia. And the CEO picked up the phone. I had his cell phone, picks it up. Hi, Tony speaking. I said, Tony Zarka? He said, yes, it is. I said, Tony Zarka, it's Laban Ditchburn from Melbourne here. He goes, oh, hi, Laban. Do we know each other? I said, Tony, we've never spoken before, but today's your lucky day. He laughs. He goes, why is it my lucky day, Laban? I said, because, Tony, I'm the world's best courage coach. And I teach your people how to take bold, massive, and courageous action to facilitate their own miraculous outcomes. 13 minutes on the phone with Tony Zarka, he invites me back the following week to pitch training and coaching for his organization. I get on the call the following Wednesday. It's still in lockdown in Melbourne, so we're on Zoom. And I just asked Tony one question. And the power is in the listener, Steve says, Steve Hardison. The power is in the listener. I asked him one question about what he wanted to do with the business. And he spoke for 45 minutes about all his plans for this organization. In that 45 minutes, he told me everything I needed to know about the organization. And he finished talking. And I said, Tony, what about becoming the best real estate company in the state of Victoria? And his eyes widened and he started nodding sort of subconsciously. And I said, Tony, what about being the best real estate company in Australia? Now he's really rocking. Now he can see possibility. 30 seconds later, this guy's standing with his arms stretched in the air, yelling at the top of his lungs, I'm the best real estate CEO in the world. And I pitched $250,000 worth of training and coaching to this organization on a first phone call. And Tony looked back at me and didn't hang up the call. He didn't tell me to get lost. He didn't abuse or laugh in my face. He simply said, Laban, he said, I physically do not have the liquid to invest in that right now, but let me see what I can do. Now, in that moment, my glass ceiling of possibility in my mind completely blew to pieces. And this is the reason I wanted to tell you this story, because when you make a declaration, whether it be the world's best courage coach, world's best podcast prosperity coach, world's best life optimization coach, world's best leverage coach, whatever that might be, the people that matter will react to you in ways that you can't even fathom. And don't get me wrong, this is not an overnight thing. This is a lot of work.
Right.
But I would encourage everyone out there listening to make your own declaration, something that's non-quantifiable, something that's intangible, So that unless there's a competition in Las Vegas, Nevada next year for the world's best competition, courage coach, I can't have that taken away from me. And neither can you.
I love that story, Dr. Mike.
Yeah.
Because go ahead. You got something to say?
No, I'm glad to hear that story. That I can see why he has that title. He's very good.
Well, and with Laban, he teaches other people to really get rid of their fear, right, Laban? I mean, it's letting that fear go and having some belief in yourself. You know, Laban and I, we had touched base quite a few times. And he says, Al, if you ever need anything, let me know. And I don't know, I think it was probably about maybe 6 months ago. I always get my ideas at the gym. You know, we usually see each other at the gym in the morning. And I'm like, frick, Laban knows Les Brown. I wonder if I could get a hold of Les Brown.
Yeah.
So I reached out to Laban and I said, hey, would you do an introduction? He goes, no, but I'll send you his phone number.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. So he sends me Les Brown's phone number. Now, for those of you that don't know who Les Brown is an incredible speaker. I mean, this guy, I don't even know how to put it. The power that this guy has.
He's regarded, sorry to cut you off. He's regarded as the best ever living or dead motivational speaker.
Yeah. Wow. This guy is incredible. I mean, the way he puts his words, his energy, it has a way of just bonding with you. You connect really quick. So Laban sends me over Les's phone number. And I sit on it I get it and I'm thinking, I'm all excited. And then as soon as I see it, I'm like, oh shit.
I need some courage.
What do I do with it? Yeah. You know, I'm asking Laban for some help and he sends me this guy's phone number. And I have a way of, I think you and I have talked about it. I have a way of sitting on things until I get that little voice in my head, which I call my spirit. Once I get something and I hear it, I jump on it as quick as possible. So I'm heading out to a job site out at Rose Park and heading down I-15, heading north. And I mean, it was like something slapped me upside the head with a book. It's like, call Les Brown right now. And I'm like, no, he probably won't answer. And the same thing happened. Call Les Brown right now. So I'm like, screw it. Les is well known, but he's just a human, just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take a little piece out of Laban's book and have some courage and call this guy up. So I do. Dial his phone number. Rings about 3 times. You know, on the other end, it's like, hello, this is Les. I'm like, Les, this is Al Richards in Salt Lake City, Utah. How are you today? He goes, how are you, brother? And I says, hey, just so you know, I got your phone number from a good buddy of mine, Laban Ditchburn. And he goes, oh, Laban. Yeah, Laban. He goes, well, let me tell you. Says, if you're a good friend of Laban's, you're a good friend of mine. You're part of the family now.
All
and
right.
I'm like, holy shit, this is freaking cool. We talked for about 10 minutes as I'm heading out to the job site. And we're still working on getting him on the show. I've had a hell of a time. I've even spoken to his assistant and she's like, yeah, we'll get a day figured out. And we haven't quite got it figured out, but I do believe we will have him on the show. And I remember speaking to Laban on another call that we had. And I think it was a Zoom call I had with you and Anna. And I said, Laban, thank you. Thank you for sharing what he's gone through and what he's done. And it seems like we have a tendency, right, Laban, is we have a fear, especially someone that's well known or someone that we look at in society as being better than us because of their success. And we belittle ourselves, right? We think, yeah, they're not going to have any time for someone like me.
Yeah.
And then you got Laban proving that that's a bunch of bull crap.
Yeah.
You know,
Stepping
people up to the plate, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Just people.
Yeah.
You know, this is interesting to me because I've spent the last 30 plus years studying pathology. this is a different approach. So much of medicine is focused on studying disease, pathogenesis, looking at the origins and the course of disease and how best to diagnose and treat those diseases. Lately, I'm becoming more aware of what's called the salutogenic approach to psychiatry and to medicine. And salutogenesis refers to not necessarily the study of disease, but the study of optimization of health. And so what you guys are talking about, Laban and Al, this is a little outside of my usual bailiwick. I don't deal with really healthy behaviors a lot in my work. I like to see people evolve to that.
How can we mess that up for you?
Well, you are. I mean, this is great. I'd love to, and I've thought this a lot about medicine and psychiatry, particularly, that it's the focus is on illness, and that's appropriate. But I think there needs to be, and I think there is now, an increasing focus on wellness and how can we optimize a person's functioning in life.
Yeah.
And addressing these things that trip us up, like having, like you're describing, Al, this fear of talking to somebody else that we might perceive as being, more worthy or special than we are, gets in our way of achieving what we want out of life and contributing more to life and helping other people have a good life too. I think there's such potential for good, but because of this lack of courage or this fear we have, I think it's really easy to hold back and not let our light shine, not really bring forth what we can into the world.
Yeah.
So,
Dr. Mike, it's lovely to hear a medical professional start to focus on the prevention over the cure, right? Have you heard of,
and the optimization as well as just the cure.
Right. I mean, we have to, because of the trajectory for modern health. We're, on track, I think, to bankrupt or spend all of the GDP in England, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and I think in North America on type 2 diabetes by the year 2030. And have you come across Dr. Chris Palmer from Harvard Medical School?
I have not, no.
He's the adjunct professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. He just released a book. He's been treating bipolar, schizophrenia, suicidal ideology for more than a decade, putting 1/3 of all his patients into full remission using a ketogenic diet developed 120 years ago for epilepsy in children.
Yeah.
He was a guest on the podcast. Fascinating. Just to throw another list of your very high pile of books I'm sure you've got to read and papers.
He's got one he's trying to finish himself.
Yeah, not quite the same academic level, but I've written a book that I think other people might find useful at some point. And
why isn't it out yet, Mike?
Well, I haven't talked to you yet, Laban. I'm relying on you to help me with that now.
Can we have a bit of fun with this? Do you mind playing around a little bit?
Sure. No.
How far from completion is the first draft?
It is completed. I have some printed editions, authors' copies that I've passed around to a few friends and others. I don't think I've given you one yet, Al, but
no, not yet.
I need to print some up.
What are you hoping to get by having people read those, by the way?
Some feedback and correct my spelling and put the punctuation where it needs to be.
Oh, hell, then don't give it to me. That's a mistake.
Can I make a recommendation, Dr. Mike?
Sure.
I want to know if you know the answer to this. What's the reason for writing the book?
The reason partly is I've spent a lot of time hearing myself say the same thing over and over again to a whole lot of different people. And I thought it would be much more efficient to write it all down and hand it out. I don't know that I'll make a lot of money, if any, on this endeavor, but if I can leave a little bit of a record of some of my thoughts and feelings about things, I think that's a first step. If it becomes something more than that, I'm happy with that. The focus of the book, the title is called Shrink Fit, A Psychiatrist's Guide to Life Fitness. And in that, I look at basic things, first of all, like exercise, of course, and nutrition, sleep habits, picking a good doctor, some things like that. But then I progress through the book, getting to less concrete issues and into more esoteric things like how to deal with relationships, finding meaning in life, and finally developing a transcendent sense. And by that, what I mean is the sense to perceive what seems imperceivable, to recognize that there's more to our reality than what we can perceive with our senses. And finally, getting to the point of self-transcendence, where we can see that our best use of our lives is to get beyond ourselves, maybe to even lose ourselves, which is a thought that Christ offered up to people, is you can find yourself by losing yourself. But that doesn't, in my experience, that doesn't happen right off the bat. That's something that is, I think it's a sign of life fitness, but it takes some effort to get to that point. So that's kind of how it's outlined. I've quoted a lot of people in there, and that's part of what's holding me up a little bit, is I need to figure out how to go back and get all the permissions so I'm not getting sued after I launch this.
Okay. Can I coach you?
Sure. Will you take notes on this?
How much are you charging?
Yes. This
Don't
one's
charge
on
it to
me.
the radio
This one's on
station.
me, Dr. Mike. So
Thank you very much, Laban.
Here's the first piece of advice that I would ask you to consider. You're not a writer. You're not a professional writer.
No.
Not yet. So give the book to a professional editor, someone that will do all of that legwork for you. You've been a doctor for a long time. I'm guessing you're okay for money in the bank. Won't cost you a lot of money, but it'll be worth its weight in gold. All right. Do not self-publish this book. I also want you to think about who is the dream person to write the foreword for the book. Do you know the answer to that question?
No, I don't at this point.
Do you want to just throw a name at me? Who's if you could just wave a wand, pray a prayer that would guarantee be answered, who is the person that's going to write the foreword for this book? Play real big, Mike. Anyone.
A little paragraph or two from Jordan Peterson would be okay.
Sure. Okay. Now you're talking. A very good friend of mine, Emily Penton, who you've met, Al.
So has Mike, because we had her on the show last week. Yeah.
So
yeah. Lovely lady.
Isn't she right? Now, I'm just throwing this out as an idea. Guess whose show she's going on tomorrow?
I have no idea.
A lady by the name of Michaela Peterson. Do you know who Michaela Peterson is?
I'm guessing she could be related to Jordan Peterson.
She's Jordan Peterson's daughter, right?
Okay.
So now Jordan Peterson, it would easily be in the top 3 or 4 most desired people to interview, get endorsements from, that type of thing, right? What I would ask you to consider is, what value can I add Jordan Peterson's life? All right. What value can I add Jordan Peterson's life? And this goes back to this whole, the world's best courage coach story, because I knew that I had nothing of any real significance to offer Steve Hardison, but a gift of, what do you need help with? On the off chance that I might be able to add value, right? And when you start going into life with every single interaction with what value can I add this person's life, you'll naturally create a lot of momentum. You might do this already, but if you don't, start becoming really intentional and conscious about what value can I add this person's life. The girl at the checkout at the supermarket, the guy on the IT help, like whatever it might be. And you've got to manage it so that you're not just going up to people saying, hey, what do you need help with? What do you need help with? And you will generate this amazing momentum. The book, if you were to self-publish and get your friends to edit for you, which is an arduous ask, by the way, far more than any decent friend should be asked to do. And no one's going to give you the real honest feedback that an editor will. So create the book and put it out there into the world that is worthy of having a foreword written by Jordan Peterson. All right. Do the man the respect of having something that is professionally put together as he is a professional. All right. And then start asking yourself the question, how can I get in touch with Jordan Peterson? How can I figure out a way to get this done? Right. And it's these little exercises that underpin how my life is now. And not all of the attempts work out. In fact, many of them don't, but some of them do. All right. And the reason that I was able to have this relationship with Les Brown is because when he came on my podcast, back in May 2020 when I had 10 subscribers, right? Because I cold called him and he came on the show because of this experience and me going into that interaction with what value can I add Les Brown's life. He ended up offering to write the foreword for my book. I got my Jordan Peterson to write the foreword for the book. And I'm not saying this to be arrogant or to big note myself, right? Because people that don't know Les, it's irrelevant. But for me, it was like getting Jordan Peterson to write the foreword for my book. So that's my encouragement to you, Dr. Mike. And you probably won't make a lot of money from the book when you put it out, but it's irrelevant. Here's what you'll get, right? If you really put your heart and soul into this thing, you'll get messages from people like I do now from all around the world saying, hey, Mr. Ditchburn, what you wrote in that book saved my life. What you wrote in that book stopped me from taking my life. What you wrote in that book saved my child. That is why we do this. What value can I add the reader's life? And if you write a book and leave no holds barred, it sounds like it's a pretty deep book. I'd be interested to read it. All right. That is my encouragement to you. Feel free to ask me anything.
Well, thank you for that. That's encouraging. And I will, I'll follow up on that.
Okay. Well, I got the notes.
Good.
I got the notes here for you.
Good.
So, I mean, Laban, like what you were saying, it's wealth in a whole different way. It's a different type of wealth. You know, it's not the wealth of money. It's the wealth of what you're doing for someone else. And I had a friend, and I've said this on some of our podcasts, and I don't know if you've heard it, but I had a good friend that I met through a lot of networking years ago, and his name is Oz. And someone joked, is it the Wizard of Oz? No, it's not the Wizard of Oz.
And not Dr.
Not Dr. Oz. But his real name is Oz. And we hadn't spoken to one another for quite a while. And he reached out to me one day and he goes, hey, Al, he goes, it's been going on, man. We haven't chatted for about 3 years. And he said, I'd like to sit down and chat with you for a bit. So we scheduled a meeting, went over to Top Golf. Didn't do any golfing, didn't have any lunch. We just sat in the cafeteria there and we started talking. And Oz taught me a very, very valuable lesson that day. So he goes, Al, can I ask you a personal question? And I said, shoot. He goes, are you wealthy? And I started laughing and I leaned back in my chair and I said, yeah, if you looked at my bank account right now, you'd see that I'm not wealthy at all.
Yeah.
I says, I think maybe there's $10 in it. And I'm joking, you know, I'm laughing this off. And I leaned back forward and I had my hands out, kind of like how I'm sitting right here at the desk now. And he leans over and he puts his hands on top of my hands. And he goes, let me tell you something. He goes, anytime I go to any kind of networking group or a gathering of people, he goes, for some reason, your name always pops up. And I was like in shock. And he goes, anytime your name comes up, there's not one person that I have met yet that has anything ill to say about you. Wow. They all have positive things to say about you. Yeah. And that hit me really hard. But what really got me is he looked me square in the eye and he goes, Al, my friend, that is true wealth. And literally my eyes started watering up. I was just like in shock. And I'm thinking, holy crap, that man just taught me a valuable, valuable lesson. And so with what Laban was saying, even with some of our books that we write, maybe it won't be to make money on it. You know, we don't make any money off these podcasts and these live shows.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, it's coming. And I know it's coming. The whole purpose of it is, and we've said this many times, if we can touch one person's life and they hear a guest come on and share their story and it helps them, it gives them that aha moment and it changes it.
Yeah, that's a good investment. It's worth
Man,
it.
it's worth it. You know, I mean, we may not ever really know how many people this show touches.
Yeah.
Laban may never know how many books bet on you. You know, that's the title of his book. How many people he helps, but we know it's helping someone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's nice to have money, but if that's where you assess your own value, you're going to end up feeling pretty empty. I think you've
Yeah.
got to have more than that. And I think this feeling of giving back is critical. There are a lot of very wealthy people who are very unhappy.
Oh yeah.
Most.
Yeah, most.
Yeah,
I'll
and
be
that's
honest,
unfortunate because I think we grow up thinking, oh man, if I could just make a few more bucks or a lot more money or whatever, I'll be so much more happy. And I think we've talked about this before, that if you start from zero and all of a sudden have $100, you're going to be a little happier. But that curve levels off at some point,
Yeah.
and more money. Again, I'm not against having money, but I do think it puts an extra responsibility on people. And I really respect well-to-do people who do wise things with their money and who use their money to help others. And I think those who do that are more likely to find joy from having their money. And I think those who, we're approaching Christmas season, those who are like Scrooge, who are just hoarding all their money and not doing anything with it other than aggrandizing themselves, they end up pretty empty.
Oh yeah.
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 Could
Definitely.
we, wise words, Dr. Mike, and you just
Thank you.
reminded me of something that's become really important to me, and it tied in when Al messaged me, can we talk about courage and what courage means and how to develop courage? And I would argue that honesty is the new currency, and I'll explain. We just got back from a 3-month road trip in the States. We spent 2 of the 3 months in Utah, most of it in Salt Lake City, had the most wonderful time, and nearly moved there, right? And for a number of reasons that might happen in the future, but had some wonderful experiences with people. But we had some, not just in Salt Lake, but across the country, had 4 instances in a row, which from a mathematical probability point of view would be pretty low, I would have thought, where people who in some cases physically looked me in the eye and shook my hand and committed to doing something. And they were all financial transactions. All 4 of them reneged. All 4 of them reneged. And I also had some circumstances that took place, and I talked to a lot of people. So the numbers sound high, but based on the sheer number of people that I talked to, it's pretty low numbers. I've got to give credit. Where, again, people had the opportunity to say not right now or no thank you, but instead chose to say yes and then renege. And what I found, and I'd be keen to hear your 2 thoughts on this, is that finding reliable people in the current world that we live in has been harder than probably anything else that I've had to endure in the last few years. And I've gone through a lot. And I would argue that the truth is the new currency. What do you guys reckon?
I agree with you. I think that we need more of that. I think so often people are presenting themselves in a false way. They're saying false things. Yeah, I think you're onto something there, Laban.
Yeah,
And
I would
just
have to
underscore that.
I would have to concur with it. And I think I read it in quite a few places in Steve Hardison's book, The Ultimate Coach. Our integrity is really, I think it needs to be up here at all times. And I wasn't there for probably the majority of my life. It wasn't until I lost my job in 2009 and started working on me and deciding what type of person I wanted to be. And I was still kind of confused where I wanted to go with my life. And it's led me to this.
Yeah, good.
And integrity, I believe, is the honesty. When you say you're going to do something, and I know Steve Hardison holds his clients to this. If they say they're going to do it, they damn well better do it. Because
they get fired. They get fired.
Yeah. And it's their word. I mean, right?
No refunds as well.
Yeah. And I have really started basing my life a lot off of that, with the honesty. And I've had probably a handful of people tell me that, how the heck is it now? I was going to say it. My honesty is at a fault at times. because I'm too honest, and it could end up being a fault.
Yeah.
And,
why would it be a fault?
That's what I want to know. Why is it a fault? And I've had this conversation with Janan quite a few times, and I'll speak my mind, and I don't do it to hurt someone. That's not my intention, is to, of course, I can't make somebody feel the way that they feel. That's their choice. I say it because I say it in good heart, and I want them to know who I am or where I stand. At least people know where I stand. And I would rather have it that way.
Yeah.
Than beat around the bush or ho-hum. And I do my best to hold people to those standards as well. If someone says they're going to come and pick me up at a certain time, I expect them to be there at that time. Yeah. Now, I understand there's accidents and different things that happen, and, other stuff that kind of falter from that, but there's still a phone call, right? And I don't know how many times, both Brad and I, we've talked about it on a lot of our road trips of business deals, kind of like what you're talking about, Laban. People say, oh yeah, absolutely, I'm there. And then when the time comes, it's usually crickets.
Well, let's give the audience some practical strategies, because I think it's easy just to say, hey, tell the truth, right? But there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of shame attacks that people deal with that haven't had an opportunity to do the work, right? This what you are seeing in front of you today is not just something that happened overnight, right? It's
absolutely.
The result. It's like
years of working on it.
Yeah, it's like your book, Dr. Mike. It's like part of this journey, right? This crawling up the different levels of consciousness, and the outcome. You're actually by not being a person of your word, you're causing harm to yourself, firstly, but you are causing harm to the people that you're lying to. All right. So you're not just impacting yourself, you're impacting the person that you're not able to be honest with. And because when you are a man of your word, and I'm not saying I'm infallible, my goodness, but Jordan Peterson says, tell the truth, or at least try to, right? I think that's one of his 12 rules for life, Mike. I'm paraphrasing there, so forgive me. But if you say not right now, that is a very, very good way of saying no, not right now, not right now. And practice that. Practice it with easy stuff, all right? Because it's a boundary setting exercise. And the people that struggle in life the most are the ones that struggle setting the most boundaries, all right? It's all to do with a lot of this codependent stuff and whatever childhood you've had and whatever upbringing you've had. Like, these are little 1% improvements that you can make in your life that will make your life infinitely better. As soon as you become a person of your word, it's the people that you want to spend the time with will gravitate towards you. And if you're not, you'll attract all the low vibrational people that are also that aren't their word. And the shitstorm continues to flow,
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
So you got any kind of professional advice you want me to lay down on the desk? And
No, we don't have a good couch in here for you, Al.
Yeah.
No, I think that this is an important discussion, and I think honesty is something that I think it does not receive the respect and the consideration that it should in today's society. Another thing I would consider, another value, I think, is just kindness to each other. I think we live in this world where we have this feeling of competition with each other and distrust of each other and enmity with each other. And I think it'd be nice if we could learn to be cheerleaders for each other. And we've talked about that before a little bit too, and just learn that we all are dealing with our own stuff in life, our own struggles, our own uncertainties. And rather than find someone who's struggling and step on them as you try to advance your own cause, lift them up.
Yeah.
I think it was the author Auden, Auden, who said, "We are here in life to do good to others. What the others are here for, I don't know," which I thought was a funny way of saying that, but
it's true though.
Yeah. I mean, the others, there are plenty of others who don't know what they're here for, but those of us who think about this ought to know that we are here to help others.
Mike, I've got a guaranteed technique that you can use that helps you become nicer to other people.
Okay.
You want to hear it?
Sure.
Delete Twitter.
Hey, I'm ahead of you already. I think I posted 1 or 2 comments in my lifetime on Twitter. So
and then got lambasted from all angles.
I will
This is
confess,
awesome.
I did have a recent comment that I put on Yahoo deleted from there, and I don't know why they deleted it, but they said it was, I think I questioned their integrity for their journalistic style. I mean, I think they showed some bias there that when I commented on that, they didn't like that. So anyway,
crazy.
that's my claim to fame.
Well, this
Deleted.
ties in with the truth, because this is probably part of it. Name me one media source in existence in North America that you can honestly rely upon. Left, right, center. Like there's nothing. There is nothing, all right? Unless you hear it from the horse's mouth or see the video cam footage. It's like I'm 42. I've never experienced a period of my life where I literally cannot believe anything with any certainty. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating time to be alive. And I think, so how do you change the world? Well, you change yourself to begin with, right? So I'm going to make a declaration to be not only the world's best courage coach, but the world's most follow through on what he says he's going to do coach. Then we'll see what happens.
I love it.
Sounds good.
So Laban, this show, we do our best to keep it short, because our podcasts usually get pretty long because there's so much to say, but we want to respect everyone's time tonight, especially with it being on a live show. One last message to share with the audience. What is your main message? What is it that you really want our audience to understand from what we've talked about, or just even something that we quite didn't hit on?
I'm going to borrow Les Brown quote, which is just so great. I love it. He says, "What people think of me is none of my business." All right. What people think of me is none of my business. And if you think about when you tell someone your troubles, right? Oh, my wife left me, or whatever. Like 90% of people don't care. And the other 10% are actually glad it's happening to you and not them. And when you put it into perspective like that, it's like, no one's coming to save me. Who cares what people think of me? I've like trying to please everyone is an exercise of futility. Good luck.
Yeah.
What people think of me is none of my damn business, baby.
And I love that as the main message, because that is so true. That is so true. And Mom, I don't know if you're listening, but if you are, I hope you heard what Laban just said. Laban had an incredible conversation with my mom when we were down in St. George for our summit. And she doesn't quite say your name right, but that's okay.
Not many people do.
But you touched her heart, and hopefully there'll be a time here down in the road, the near future, where you might have a conversation, be able to have another conversation with her, because she could really use it at times. And I do my best as the oldest son to help direct her in the right way. But you know how it is with a lot of us. We won't take advice from our spouse or certain friends, but a stranger could come up to us and give us that same advice, and we'll listen to it.
That's why I like talking to people at the supermarket. I'd
Yeah,
like
right?
to throw one more thing in there, if
Okay.
you don't mind me crowbarring, because it's really important, ties in with what we're talking about with your darling mum, right? It's another Les Brown quote, right? I'm not shocked. He says, "Ask for help, not so that you appear weak, but so that you can remain strong, and keep asking for help until you get it." And the beautiful thing about getting really good, world-class at asking for help, which is what I'm striving towards, is that you can then help others more because you get good at receiving it. Ask for help. Not everyone's going to say yes. Someone will. Keep asking for help until you get it.
Yeah.
Amen.
I love it.
Good.
That's a great point. Great point. Yeah. And that is so true. That's so true with so many things in life. I mean, even when I was thinking about starting a podcast and not knowing, I just kept talking about it. Next thing I knew, I was introduced to Brad, and now here we are, gosh, quickly approaching 2 years.
Wow.
I'm just flipping shocked. And Laban and his lovely wife, Anna, actually were our guests for our 100th episode,
Wow.
which was
Great.
really cool. Yeah.
Al, if I may, I'd love to offer something to the audience tonight.
Okay, please
Something
do.
just that came into my heart earlier today when I was thinking about what value can I add to these people's life. For those that are interested, for those that are in North America, text courage, COURAGE to 33777, and you'll get a free audio version of the book, Bet on You, which I wrote. But I'd also, in addition to that, like to offer a 15-minute discovery session that you can use to talk to me on a Zoom or a phone call, whatever you desire. 15 minutes for nothing. And
Wow.
if you feel called to that, I've cleared up a little bit of time on my calendar. I don't have lots of spots available, but 33777, text courage. You'll get a copy of the audiobook, which is in my dulcet tones. If you like this accent,
It's very nice.
Yes.
thanks,
Nice.
Dr. Mike. Flattery will get you everywhere.
You're welcome.
I love it. I love it. Well, for the Yankee women, yeah, they're probably humming. And so, yeah. and so I would have to say that when Anna gets on, because she's got that accent of hers, and us
The
Americans, we love those accents. So yeah.
Now, I have a question though. Do the people in Australia appreciate a good Utah accent?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Laban that question.
Yeah, the Yanks get very well received in New Zealand. I'm born in New Zealand. I'm half Australian, half New Zealand.
Okay.
In New Zealand, especially, the Australians are very, very well liked. The thing is, we grew up watching American and British TV, so we're a lot more used to it. The novelty's not quite there. And now that the world's so much smaller, but you would still be well received. You would never be, vilified or abused anywhere. Quite the contrary.
Good. That's
Wow.
encouraging.
And Laban, you were talking about that link, and I don't know, is that link still up? Because I believe I reached out to Steve Hardison too about I don't even remember. It was like TBO,
LIT, NFL.
Yeah,
It's just, if you just search Steve Hardison on YouTube, you'll see 2 videos from 2 different channels. There's not much content on there, and you'll see a video. It's 12 years old. One of them was put up this year from Amy Hardison's channel. TBO, LIT, NFL, the best offensive linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah, and that's a great video, because Laban, you're the one that sent it to me, and I believe I watched it the very next day while I was cooking dinner, and I was just like in awe. I'm like, oh my gosh.
And if you watch it and it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay as well. I say to people, look, if you get 1% of what I got from it, it'll be worth your time. Absolutely. Yeah. And some people get more. You talked to Emily Penton, who you had on, like that was absolutely transformative for her. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just the right place, right time. And Dr. Mike, the work you're doing, it sounds like you've had a spiritual awakening of sorts, sort of bubbling away there. It's very interesting watching you speak. I can kind of feel it sort of bubbling away. And I suspect it'll burst forth at some point, maybe when you retire from medicine, maybe. But that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, and I actually did retire, although I haven't ruled out going back into the arena at some point. But right now I have time to take care of grandkids and worry about the book and do some other things.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
If you'd like some introductions to some world-class publishers, you don't need to deal with the big ones. You can do collaborative publishing deals. And that's for anyone that's interested in writing a book. Your voice needs to be heard, all right? The people that resonate at a vibrational level will resonate with your book. All right. That's the point of it. And no one else.
Thank you for that.
Love it. Laban, brother, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to spend it with us on the other side of Addiction Live. Thank you. Love you, brother, and miss you guys. I miss you and Anna. Wish you guys were here back in Salt Lake. But another time will come.
April for the event, for the Heal Utah event.
Yeah. We're still kind of juggling around dates. We found our venue. We're pretty set on our venue, which I think you may have seen pictures on Facebook when Brad and Robin and I went and toured it. incredible venue. So we're just trying to get a date locked down a little bit. But
It's going to be
I'll
huge.
oh yeah, this one's gonna be massive. Dr. Mike, thank you for being here again.
My pleasure. And it's been great to meet you, Laban. I look forward to hearing
Likewise.
more about you and from you. So thank you.
Yeah,
And-
likewise, Dom.
And
Thank you
guys,
very
reach
much.
out to Laban. I mean, seriously, reach out to Laban. You guys, you heard him here live. The guy is full of knowledge, lots of experience. He's not just talking out of the back end of his,
Yeah.
you know what. He's lived a heck of a life. And I highly, highly recommend his book, Bet on You.
Yeah.
It's
Look
an
forward to looking at
incredible
it.
book. Yeah. And the audio version is awesome. Laban with his accents, and he throws in some other accents. It'll just get you laughing your ass off. I
Great.
sat at my desk just with my eyes full of tears because I was laughing so hard with some of his stuff, but it's some very serious stuff as well. So Laban, again, thank you so much. Please give your lovely wife a hug from all of us here. And
She's watching now. She can
okay.
hear you.
Awesome. Love you, Anna. Take care of yourself. And thank you for the introduction to London. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. I look forward to speaking with her and Tara tomorrow evening.
Didn't
And
tell you the
Laban-
origin story with the London thing. We'll save that for another time.
Okay, that sounds good. And if there's anything we can do for you, please let us know.
Thank you, guys. Love your work.
Thank
All
you.
right. God bless everyone. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for all your support. Greatly, greatly appreciate it.